Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Paul, and in this channel about things that I am curious about and things I've looked into, I like to share. So with today's video, I wanted to share with you guys an idea that popped into my head today. And this comes as a result of me trying to think about how I'm going to operationally pull off the different things that I want to do, because in the short term, they are not directly related. In the long term, they will be, but in the short term, they aren't. And so I have been trying to think about, okay, how am I actually going to, in the day to day, like what would this actually look like when I pursue these different things? And so the thought that came into my head with this, and I hope this will be helpful as I explain it and kind of lay it out, but the thought that came into my head was, before you progress, replace yourself. Before you progress, replace yourself. And so I want to share what this could possibly look like. And if you are a person who has found like your one true love, you want to do one thing for the next 30, 40, 50 years, that's great. But if you have multiple interests that you want to pursue, maybe this idea will be a little bit helpful to you and where you want to go. So my thought with this is as follows. Let's say within the next couple months, there is a certain business that I see an opportunity in that I want to start up. Okay. Some people, they say, okay, I'm going to go into this business. I'm going to have it for the next 40 years. It's going to be my retirement plan. That's what I'm going to do. Other people, they say, okay, for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to build it up. I'm going to increase its valuation and sell it off, and then go pursue the different areas in my life as well. So depending on the end goal depends on, or whatever you want for your end goal will determine how you run the now. And so when I was thinking about this, because I want to do different things within the realm of business, within the realm of church life, and within the realm of research. And so when I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, in order to go to the latter two that I discussed, we need the business level up and running on its own. So that means for this first early part, we need to replace myself as much as we can, as many times as we can. That way these things just become on their own, like they function on their own, they're their own organisms, and they can grow without me, right? And I could go on to do the other things even earlier, but if I want to have all the things that I want to have, I need to spend some time in the first part first and then replace myself. And so that thought came before you progress, meaning it's not where I want to stay. These other two areas is where I ultimately want to go to. But before I do that, replace yourself, right? And so let's say it's within the next field, okay? Like let's say, and I know I said church first, but let's say research next. Okay, within the research, what could that look like to replace myself? So to prove yourself in any industry, you're going to be doing a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the labor work, right? Once you kind of make a name for yourself, you then have people who will do a lot of that stuff for you. And so I was beginning to think about this in terms of research as well. And it's honestly kind of a lot like a business if you think about it. And with the professors that are really well known, it's almost like you have a businessman who's really well known, or at least maybe his businesses are. And there's a lot of people wanting to get maybe mentored by him or get a job from him. And so they're willing to work with him, maybe put in even a little bit more time. And so I pretty much am thinking about, okay, I got to replicate what you do in the business field with the research field. That way you can draw people, right? And replace yourself and have a lot of that, let's say more tedious work that's being done in research. A lot of that with data entry and just the things that entails, you don't necessarily need to be the one doing it. You just need to be able to be the one to draw certain conclusions, have certain ideas of what to work on, and then be able to draw conclusions and all that stuff in between. It's not necessarily as needed for that hands-on work, right? And so this is kind of the idea that I was thinking about. And then you get to or for me, get to the end, which is stuff with the church. That's the stuff that you can't replace, because that is, you can never, I mean, you could technically, you don't have to be just like the pastor of a church forever. You could maybe pastor other pastors or start multiple churches and then have pastors within that. That could be a thing as well, but you never really get outside of the spiritual life, right? Like all along, you're kind of already in the spiritual life. That's like a lot of one-to-one stuff anyways, that I'd be doing. So there isn't really a graduation level from that. But as far as the other two, a lot of that, a lot of that stuff and a lot of those processes um, can be operated by other people. And so this is that idea that I was thinking of. Okay. Before you progress, replace yourself. And so with whatever area it is that you may be wanting to do, maybe wanting to look into, maybe wanting to pursue, think about where you are right now, where you're wanting to go, and however many different areas there are for you within however many different fields, you have to break it down into what that looks like practically. And then in the end, how can you have all of them that you want to have? Well, you got to say, okay, what is most foundational? What is intermediate? And then what is last? And the last, maybe like such as in my example, goes through them all, but it really culminates in this end part. And so when you can break that down, and when you can think of replacing yourself before you're progressing, here's what also happens. And this is kind of the cool part that I was thinking of. Now, each of your prior selves that you replaced, now you can also help grow them because they also become images of what you once were. And that's a cool part too, because now when you progress, you'll be able to now look back at all the people who are filling all those roles of what you once had. And now it's almost like you're looking back on a lot of your prior selves as well. And so you can then talk to them as if you're talking to your past self and also help them grow to whatever goals and dreams that they have, right? Because you say, okay, look, I'm one person. I was able to go from here to here. Let me share with you some of that knowledge on how. And so now, not only do they have an idea, a practical idea of what that looks like for them, they're inspired by it. So you could say, hey, I see you working in my company right now. Where do you want to go? They say, oh, maybe I want my own company one day. Maybe I want to go do such and such. You say, okay, great. Here's the steps that I would take, to go from here to there. Okay, first, this is your role in this company, right? If you want to start your own company, X, Y, Z, and then lay out the steps. Maybe it's at the next role, like such as with the example that I gave. So you get someone who says, hey, I want to go have my own lab, etc. I want to go do my own things. Okay, great. Here's the steps that I took with it. And, here's how to get there. And so it's really, really, it was, I don't know, kind of cool for me to think about that idea because it made a lot of sense, right? Because if you're chasing 1,000, rabbits at once, you're not really going to catch any. But when you're focused on this idea in different phases of your life, keeping the end goal in mind, well, now you're not bothered by the fact that you're not necessarily doing the thing that you ultimately want to do, but you do know that it's a stepping stone to get to where you want to get to. And a lot of people already have this actually idea in mind, except for the idea of replacing themselves. So for example, a lot of people, let's say they want to become the CEO of a company one day. They're like, okay, I know I got to put in the extra hours. I know I got to, do these things for my boss and, pretty much put in that extra work. And then they always see that they need to do whatever steps it is to get to the next level, except a lot of people aren't thinking about the idea of replacing themselves because for a lot of people, the only person in mind for them is themselves. And so whether or not they are replacing themselves doesn't matter to them as long as they are progressing. But if you can get to this habit and idea of replacing yourself, what this will eventually transform your mind into doing is learning also how to lead people and learning also how to inspire people. So now you not only are progressing your own life, but now you're bringing other people's lives into what you're currently doing and now also helping them progress. And as we all know, if you can help other people do that, naturally people are going to help you get to where you want to go. Even if at one point these people were beneath you and you were helping them, you never know. They could go on to do whatever. This is how life works. Could go on to do whatever, and somehow, as it relates to you, end up helping you out to where you need to go. So this idea of progression we are familiar with, but if we can add in this thought of replacing ourselves, this will add a tremendous amount of value to our own lives. Not only just in a way that gives us, happiness and whatever else you want to say with that, but also in a very, very practical way for others. And your leadership, you almost have the moral authority on leadership because you're already laying out a path, and it's inspiring in that way. So I wanted to share this thought, this idea with you. And yeah, if it was helpful at all, or if it gave you some new insights on how you're going to progress, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, how you're going to break it down, let me know down in the comment section below. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.